Good morning, my friends and our beloved lecturer, Ibu Anggani. This morning, we are from Group 2. I'm Cadet Sonia Piscayanti, and my friends will deliver the presentation on survey design. Okay, let me first by introducing the topic that we are going to discuss today. The first, how to define survey research and describe when to use it and how it developed. And second, describe the types of survey design. And third, identify the key characteristics of survey research. Fourth, list the steps in conducting survey research. And five, identify potential ethical issues in survey research. Okay, let me begin with the definition. So what is survey research? Survey designs are procedures in quantitative research in which you administer a survey or questionnaire to a small group of people, called a sample, to identify attitudes, opinions, behaviors, characteristics, or interests of a large group of people. This is according to Creswell in 2012. A survey design provides a quantitative or numeric description of trends, attitudes, or opinions of a population by studying a sample of that population. From sample results, the researcher generalizes inferences to... Okay, next. Starting the basic purpose and rationale for survey research. First, identify the purpose of survey research. This purpose is to generalize from a sample to a population so that inferences can be made about some characteristics, attitude, or behavior of this population. This is according to Baby, 1990. Second, indicate why a survey is the preferred type of data collection procedure for the study. This is also according to Baby, 1990, and Fowler, 2002. Next, indicate whether the survey will be cross-sectional or whether it will be longitudinal. Specify the form of data collection, which is through mail, telephone, the internet, personal interviews, or group administration. According to Fowler, 2009, Kruger and Casey, 2009, and Fink, 2012. Okay, next, we are going to continue with when do you use a survey? So we use survey when we are going to first assess trends. Second, we want to assess opinions, beliefs, and attitudes. Third, we want to follow up an analysis. And fourth, we want to have an evaluation of a certain program. So next. How did survey research develop? Survey research developed from the year 1817 with the International Survey of Education System, and then in 1890 with Stanley Hall Survey of Children, in 1907 with the Pittsburgh Survey examined social problem. In World War I and World War II, sampling techniques improved, and an application began to vary from social sciences to media. Universities established social science research centers, and private organizations such as Gallup, Rand Corporation, and Roper formed. Okay, I would like to continue with the types of survey design. Types of cross-sectional and longitudinal survey design. According to the time of data collection, the survey design can be divided into two. The first one is study over time, and the second one is study at one point in time. Study over time or longitudinal is divided into three. The first one, trends in the same population over time. Second, changes in the subpopulation group identified by a common characteristic over time, and changes in the same people over time. The first one is considered to be a trend. The second one is cohort, and the third one is panel. Meanwhile, in study at one point in time or cross-sectional can be divided into 5 design. The first one is categorized from attitudes and practices. The second one is based on community needs. And the third one based on program evaluation. The fourth based on group comparisons. And the last one is based on national assessment. Okay, that's all from my points. And the next points will be discussed by other presenters. Thank you.
Yeah. The next, before we design the survey research, we need to consider the key characteristic of survey research itself. There are 4 points that belongs to the main characteristic of survey research. The first is the sampling from the populations. And the second one is collecting data through questionnaire and interview. And the third one is designing instrument for data collection. And the fourth is obtaining a high response rate. So it is actually important for a researcher to underline some of these characteristics before he or she conducts survey research. Relating to the sampling from population, meaning that as a researcher, we need to consider the sample as the representatives of the population. So it will present the good finding of survey research. And in relation to collecting data through questionnaires and interview, meaning that the procedure in data collection should be determined well. It means that different data collection will create different data collection procedure. And then for designing instruments for data collections, as a researcher in designing instrument for data collection, we need to consider about the validity and reliability. And then the last is for obtaining high response rate, meaning that the response rates are calculated by dividing the number of usable response rate. And then the next, one of the key characteristics of survey research that we need to highlight here is about the issue of population and sample. So the population is the group of individuals having one characteristic that distinguishes them from the other group. Meanwhile, in the population itself, there is the target populations or sampling frame is the actual list of sampling units from which the sample is selected. And in the target population, there is of course the main one, we call it as the sample, is the group of participants in a study selected from target population from which the researcher generalized to the target populations. The next. Yeah, and we need also to consider the essential or the important aspect in the population and sample. The first, as the researcher, we need to identify the population in the study. Also, we have to state the size of this population. So if the size can be determined and the means of identifying individuals in population. Of course, in this line, there will be the question of access that will arise, and the researcher might refer to availability of sampling frames, mail or even published lists or potential respondents in the population. And the second one, as a researcher, we need to identify whether the sampling design for population is single or multi-stage, or we can call it as the clustering. So the clustering here, or the clustering sample, is ideal when impossible or impractical to compile a list of elements composing population. or whether it is a single-stage sampling procedure is one of which the researcher has access to names in the population and can sample the people directly. Meanwhile, in the multi-stage or clustering procedure, the researcher first identifies cluster, and then he may continue obtains the names of the individuals within those cluster, and then samples with them. And the third is about identify the selection process for individuals. Yeah. So according to the expert, random sample or sample is used or selected, yeah, because in using the random sampling, each individual in the population, of course, have an equal probability of being selected, yeah. Or even we can consider the other less desirables like non-probability sample or convenience samples, yeah, in which respondents are chosen based on their convenience and availability. But of course, randomization as the representative sample from populations provide the ability to generalize to population. And then identify whether the study will involve stratification of population before selecting the sample. So here stratification means the specific vectors of the respondent or the individuals, yeah. For examples like the gender, male and females, and then the income levels or levels of the education. And then the next is about discussing the procedure for selecting the sample from available list, and then indicate the number of people in the sample and the procedure used to compute this number. So according to Barbie and also Fowler in 2002, they recommend that one use a sample size formula available in many survey texts. The next. Okay, the next is about the instrumentation. So instrumentation becomes an important thing before a researcher conducts survey research, because by using this instrumentation or designing this instrumentation, the finding will be obtained. So there are some following items or following important things that the researcher needs to consider. The first, let's rename the survey instrument used to collect the data, whether it is modified instrument or intact instrument developed by someone else, or even using the online survey tool like the SurveyMonkey. So if it is a modified instrument, indicate whether the developer has provided appropriate permissions, yeah, to use it. Because in some survey project, the researcher assembles an instrument from component of several instrumentations. Yeah, of course, permission to use any part of other instruments need to be obtained. And then an online survey tools like SurveyMonkey is also familiar to use, yeah, in survey research. I ever use this SurveyMonkey, and it is easy to use, and of course we can get we can get the results, yeah, and the report from them as quickly as possible, yeah. And the report that I get from survey research can be in the form of descriptive statistic or graph information. And then the next is to use existing instruments, describe the established validity and reliability of scores obtained from the past use of the instrument. The next is when one modifies an instrument or combines instrument in a study, the original validity and reliability may not hold for the new instrument, and it becomes important to re-establish validity and reliability during data analysis. So even we modified the instrument, we also still need to check the validity and reliability, whether for example, like when we use the Likert scale, Likert scale in questionnaire, so we can try to use inter-rater approach to check the construct validity, and we can use Cronbach's alpha test to get the reliability. And then the next is include sample items for the instruments so that the readers can see the actual item used. We can provide it in the appendix to the proposals. The next. The next point is about indicating the major content sections in the instruments, such as the cover letter, the items like the other items like demographics, and then attitudinal items, behavioral items, or the factual items, or even the closing instruction itself, Also mention the types of scale that we will use to measure the items on the instruments, whether it is continuous scale or categorical scale. And then the next is discuss plan for pilot testing or field testing the survey and provide a rationale for this plan. So this testing, of course, is very important to establish the content validity of an instrument and to improve the questions, the format, and scale. And the last is for a mail survey. Identify step for administering the survey and for following up to ensure a high response rate. Talking about response rate will be presented by the next presenters. And then the next, survey research is closely related to questionnaire and interview as the way as the instrumentation. So here I would like to discuss about the questionnaire itself and the interview itself. The first is about the questionnaire. Questionnaire is a form used in a survey design that participants in a study complete and returns to the researchers. The participant chooses answer to question and supplies basic personal or demographics information. And the last is the interview survey, however, is a form on which the researcher records answers supplied by the participant in the study. The researchers ask a question from an interview guidelines, listen for answers or observe behavior and record responses on the survey. This interview, of course, can help the researcher to clarify queries from respondent and can stimulate the respondent to give full answer on the topic asked in the interview. The next, relating to questionnaire, whether it is questionnaire or interview, there are two forms of data collections based on who completes or records the data. So when the data were completed by the participants, there will be mailed questionnaire and electronic questionnaire. So the advantages of this kind of mailed or electronic questionnaire that they reach large number of people, gather data at comparatively low cost, yeah, quickly, and also give assurance of confidentiality, and also uh, do not time consuming for the researcher to have one by one questionnaire. And then as standardized wording guided in these two kinds of questionnaire, there are useful degrees of comparability across the responses as no interviewers is present, yeah. So there is no risk of interviewer bias. Meanwhile, when the data collection forms are based on the researcher who records or completes the data, there are three kinds of data collection form. The first is about one-on-one, and then to a group, and then over telephone. In one-on-one, there is what we call as individual interview, and in to a group, there is what we call as a focus group interview, and over telephones, there is what we call as telephone interview. But of course, it depends on the researcher decisions, yeah, whether he or she will use the practicality, or I mean whether the researcher, which one of the data collection that the researcher want to choose. Of course, in the individual interview or focus group interview or even telephone interview, there are something that is always problematic. Like in the individual interview, it is usually affected by the characteristics, yeah, of the interviewers. For example, about the sex, and then race or ethnicity, or maybe the clothes that he or she wears, and then the appearance. So it will affect the process of the individual interview. But the other one, like the telephone interview, the researcher conduct this interview over telephones, and respondents need to answer the questions related to the topic of the research. But of course, in telephone interview, it will take time, yeah, or I can call it as time consuming, because the researcher need to call one by one. But of course, the success of telephones interview will depend on how many respondents, yeah, that would like to invest their time to answer the question over the telephones. Okay, that's all. And the next about the aspect of survey instruments design or type of questionnaire will be delivered by Pak Puput. Thank you.
Thank you for the chance given to me, Mbak Fani, and I'm going to continue about the types of questions in survey. Yeah, for the first, this is a personal type of question. The personal type of question here is related with someone's background and someone's unique information. For example, when we talk about uh, questions in survey, we can say that what is your age? What is your age here is type of a personal questions. For so every single respondent will give different answer about this. Yeah. For the second is attitudinal questions. This is the question which talk about someone's attitude or opinion related with certain issues. For example, we have a statement. Most days, I'm enthusiastic about being a student. Yeah, this is kind of attitude which is asking about how enthusiast of someone related to some issues. Yeah, the what is it? The choices probably strongly agree, neither agree or disagree. And then for the next is we have behavioral questions. This is type of question which talk about someone's behavior. For example, if we are asking about, did you take a semester off during any of your 4 years college? That this is kind of behavior, which is someone is taking the semester off or no. Yeah, the answer probably yes or no. And then the next is sensitive questions. Sometimes as a researcher, we are having duty to ask even sensitive question to our respondents. For example, when we are talking about prostitution, yeah, it is sometimes that quite sensitive for certain types of people. So that in giving any question related with these issues, we need to give, let's say, preaching before we are giving straight questions. We can just ask directly, but we need to provide a prologue before we give these kind of questions. Yeah. For example, when we talk about the use of marijuana, yeah, we can just ask about, have you ever used marijuana? This is a straight question, yeah, which probably will give what is it, negative effect into our respondent and give bad what is it, attitude, yeah? And then we may probably change into, in past survey, many men have reported that at some point in their lives they have used marijuana. This could have happened before adolescent, during adolescent, or as an adult. Have you ever smoked marijuana? This type of question is as considered as lighter and also able to be received by certain people, yeah, rather than we just ask directly by using, have you ever used marijuana? And then the next is close-ended questions. Close-ended questions is type of questions of survey which uh, give certain response into the respondent. For example, you are giving questions and that the answer is in the form of multiple choices, for example A, B, C, and also D, so that the respondent will give no other response rather than what is given by the multiple choices. And then last is open-ended questions. This is type of question which is provide uh, what is it, free answer for the respondent. For example, why are you attending adult education classes? All right. Jadi, so this is type of open-ended questions. Okay, now we are going to move to the next slide. This is talking about question construction problem. So there are several problems for the researchers, especially when they are constructed the survey question. For the first is question is unclear. Yeah, sometimes when the researchers created the survey question, the question probably unclear. Yeah. The second, multiple questions. Yeah. Here the question actually contains two or more questions called a double or triple barrel questions. Yeah. For make it better, we need to reduce the multiple question to a single question so that the question which has similar idea will need to reduce into only a single idea. For the next is question is wordy. Yeah, there are too many questions in the word. There are many words in the questions, and then question is negatively worded, and then overlapping responses, unbalanced response questions, mismatch between the questions and answer. Question includes overlay technical language, and also not all questions are applicable to all participants. Okay. The next is pilot testing. Yeah. So after we are creating our survey questions, the next step that should be done is we need to conduct pilot testing. Yeah. For the first the test on a small number of individuals in the sample. So when we have decided who is our population, who is our sample, then before we are conducting the real test or the real survey, we need to test our questionnaire into the small number of individuals inside the population. For the second one, ask for written feedback to the question. Yeah, after we are giving several tests on a small number of individuals, and then based on this test, we need to get the feedback on the question, so that by having this feedback, we are going to be able to make our survey better and better. The next is revise the survey based on written comments. Yeah, of course, after we are getting the feedback from the respondent, the next step we need to do is we revise our survey, so that when we are conducting the real survey, the question will not be having mistakes anymore or miss anymore. The next is exclude the pilot participant from the final sample for the study. Of course, the respondent that we have chosen as the small number of individuals for, let's say pre-test or anything, to get the validity and etc., we should exclude those sample, and then we need to find the new one in during the population. The next is response rate. Yeah, okay, this is usually happen in mailed question. Yeah, for example, for the first one, that we need to improve the response rate, we need to mail out the original questionnaire. Yeah, so let's say we are sending the questionnaire in the form of mail. The first step we need to do is we send the mail in the form of original question into respondent. Yeah, and then after that we follow it 2 weeks later with a second questionnaire to the individuals who have not responded. When there are some respondent who is not responded, then we send it again to those people. This is called as unrespondent. Yeah, non-respondent. We send it again, so that with the expectation that on the second trial they are going to answer our questionnaire. The next is, after another 2 weeks, send a postcard to the non-respondents reminding them to complete the questionnaire. After those 2 weeks, if they still do not respond to our questionnaire, then we need to deliver the postcard containing the questionnaire into their own what is it, address. Yeah, so that by having this mail, the real mail, they will be able to answer, and they have to answer our questionnaire. Okay, this is the what is it, the chart of three-phase survey administration procedures. Step 1 is mailing of the survey. Step 2, this is 2 weeks. Step 2 is, as I told you before, this is second mailing. Yeah, this is also 2 weeks. The next is postcard mailing. This is also 2 weeks. And then the total will be 6 weeks. Yeah, from the very beginning till the end. So we have estimation for six weeks to get the response on, let's say, uh, long distance respondents. Okay, and then the next we have steps in conducting survey research. For the first is decide if the survey is best designed to use. Yeah, you need to decide whether the survey research is the best design to use in the study. Survey help describe the trend in a population or describe the relationship among variables or compare groups. Instead, where surveys are more suitable are to assess trends or characteristics of a population, learn about individual attitudes, opinions, beliefs, and practices, evaluate the success or effectiveness of a program, or identify the needs of a community. Yeah, this is what we need to do in deciding whether the survey is the best design to use. The next is identify research question or hypothesis. Yeah, after we feel that Okay, this is the survey is best used in this type of research. So the next step is we need to identify research question and also hypothesis. Yeah. After we are able to identify the research question and also hypothesis, the next step is identify the population, the sampling frame, and also the sample. So that we are able to use this result to generalize. Yeah. The next is determine the survey design and data collection procedures. The next, develop or locate an instruments, administer the instrument, and also seven, analyze the data to address the research question or hypothesis. Yeah. After we are conducting the research by using the instrument that we have created before, the result of the survey, we need to analyze the data and then so that the data here and then the analysis should match with the research question or hypothesis. Yeah. After we got the all of this process, then we need to write the report. Well, I think that's all from me, and then we continue uh, to the next presenter.
Okay, thank you, Pak Ari. And today I'm going to continue the presentation. Okay, relates them with RQ and the items on the survey instrument. The variable name first, independent variable 1, prior publications, and the research questions is descriptive research question 1. How many publications did the faculty member produce prior to receive the doctorate? And the item on survey, see questions 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Publication count for journal articles, books, reference paper, book chapters published before receiving the doctorate. The dependent variable 1, grant funded, in a research question. Descriptive research question 2, how many grants has the faculty member received in the past 3 years? In the item of survey, see question 16, 17, and 18, grants from foundations, federal grants, and state grants. In the variable name, we have control variable 1, tenure status, and the research question, descriptive research question 3. Is the faculty member turned? In the item of survey, see question 19. Tenured, yes or no? And the variable name relating the independent variable 1, prior publications to the dependent variable grant funded. And the research question is inferential question 4. Does prior productivity influence the number of grants received? In the item of survey, see question 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 to question 16, 17, and 18. Okay, next. Okay, data analysis and interpretations. First, report information about the number of members of the sample who did and didn't return the survey. 2, discuss the method by which response bias will be determined. Third, discuss a plan to provide a descriptive analysis of the data for all independent and dependent variables in the study. Okay, this is number 4. Assuming that you proceed beyond descriptive approach, if the proposal contains an instrument with scales or a plan to develop scales, identify the statistical procedure. For the example, vector analysis. For accomplishing this, 5. Identify the statistic and the statistical computer program for testing and the major inferential research questions or hypotheses in the proposed study. 6. A final step in the data analysis is to present the result in the table or figures that interpret the results from the statistical test. Okay, here is the point on potential ethical issues in survey research. 1. Overstating the benefits of participating in the study. 2. Placing interviews on participants in unsafe situations. 3. Protecting confidently of survey response. 4. Disclosing identity of individual through data analysis of a subset. 5th, not destroying instruments at the conclusion of the study. Okay, here is the example of the article in Agile, Eurasian Journal of Applied Linguistics. A survey on the intercultural communicative competence of ELT undergraduate students. Okay. The article of survey research by Zevivo Sahin A. 2020, a survey of the intercultural communicative competence of ELT undergraduate students, Eurasian Journal of Applied Linguistics, 6.2, in page 141 until 153. And the study aims to investigate the ICC level of the undergraduate English language teaching students to find out the impact of the language competence on the intercultural communicative competence, and also whether there is a change throughout the 4-year teacher training program. 238 first-year and fourth-year undergraduate ELT students were survived. Okay, this is the method. The survey design is used in this research, and the convenient sampling method is preferred since the students were valuable due to their convenient accessibility when the study was carried out. The instrument used is Intercultural Communicative Competence Questionnaire, or ICCQ, by Mirzai and Zande. Okay, this is the method. In the ICCQ, there are 22 items in total, and the questionnaire has 3 components, which are knowledge, skills, and attitudes, and based on a 5-point Likert scale. 12 of the items are organized under the knowledge component, which is about cultural awareness and information. 5 of them belong to the skills component, relate to the communicative abilities such as listening, interpreting, and relating. And the rest 5 items belong to the attitudes component that assess the characteristics of the sample regarding cultural issues such as respecting, being open to, and tolerating diversities. Moreover, 7 items in the questionnaire are reverse codes as carried out by Sarikoban and Oz 2014. Okay, here is the point of data collections. First, the permissions of the lectures or instruction were taken since their class times were considered to collect the data. Then the questionnaire in English was distributed to all of the first and fourth year undergraduate ELT students in their weekly courses. It took approximately 10 minutes to fill the questionnaire, and the incomplete questionnaires and the students who didn't volunteer were eliminated. In the end, 238 questionnaires were obtained for the data analysis. All of the collected data were analyzed by using the following list statistical method by IBM SPSS Statistic 20 program. Okay, here is the point on the result and discussions. Okay, first, it is seen that the ICC level of the fourth year students N equal with 3.93 is slightly higher than the first year students in the ICC level and equal with 3.82. So it can be recognized that the ELT program led to the development of the ICC of the ELT undergraduate student along their training years as the findings of the current study yield. And the result of the test revealed a statistically significant difference between the ICC levels of the first year student and the fourth year student. P equal with 0.021, which means that the study year has significant effect on the level of the ICC of the participants. Okay, here is the point on conclusions. Nearly the whole sample had the high levels of the ICC, but the last year student had slightly higher level of ICC compared to the first year student. 2. There was statistically significant difference regarding the effect of study year of the ICC development, which means that the ELT program had a role in the improvement of the participants' ICC levels, despite the lack of the explicit instructions in the ICC.
Okay, friends, and my beloved lecturer, that's all from our presentation from Group 2. Thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, we can open question and answer sessions in the next session. Thank you very much.